Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05 Talking Small Business. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and I'm glad to be back with you once again on Tuesday night. As you know, we focus on leadership because at the end of the day, as a business owner, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to lead it. So helping you to be, listen to and learn from successful leaders is going to help you to become a better leader. So that's what Leadership Live is all about tonight. And I'm excited about our guest tonight. It's a little different topic than we normally have, but it's important to, bring the most value and bring the most to the situation and go to your strengths. But you have to know what they are. And many people take a long time to discover them, if they ever discover them. And our guest today is going to talk a little bit about how to discover them and uncover them sooner and easier. So tonight, my guest is Dr. Ravi Iyer, and let me welcome him to the show. Hey, Dr. Iyer, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, Andrew, thank you for having me.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Thanks for joining me. Definitely look forward to having a lively conversation with you this evening, and really just sharing some valuable things. Trying to get as much out of your brain as possible that can help us to learn how to be more successful and find our gifts. So before we get started, I know who you are, but the audience doesn't. So why don't you take a few minutes to sort of just talk a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are, some of the major milestones, and then we'll get started after that.
It's like everybody in America, I'm an immigrant. People tend to forget that. I think the only American is the American Indian. But as long as you subscribe to the ethos that represents America, I think we can all justifiably call ourselves Americans. But I'm an immigrant just like everybody else. The difference only being the timeline. I was born in Bombay in 1958. I grew up in a small eastern town called Jamshedpur, very much like Pittsburgh, that town. It's a steel city. A couple of steel companies manufacturing raw pig iron and steel, and also finished products like locomotives and trucks in a valley ringed around by iron ore and mineral-rich hills, which was the source of the raw material for the industry. My dad was a metallurgist, and he worked in that company called Telco. And we grew up a very rural, very idyllic existence. I went to a local mission school run by the Sisters of Mercy out of Philadelphia, and it was called Little Flower School. And I pretty much did all my high schooling there. And I was about 15 years old when I discovered that I had a talent for something, a skill that other people did not have. I found that as a teenager, everything is very dramatic. And, you're either on the top of Mount Everest or you're down in the abyss. And I found that I was able to be a space where the rest of my friends did not experience when they were around me, they did not experience the extreme highs and lows of teenage life. And I found that I was able to stabilize them just by being with them. I didn't have a clue as to how that was happening, but I figured out when I was about 15 that I had a gift of making people comfortable, making people calm, making people take the long view of things rather than the short view. And I didn't realize it as it was a gift, but I just realized that I had something special, something different. I didn't realize it was special, but I definitely felt it was different. One of the things that intimated me that it was different was that I found that the girls in my class would be far more comfortable hanging around me than they were with the other guys. And of course, that kind of was perceived differently at that time. But it was only later that I figured out that I was being a particular way in my way of talking, standing, looking, seeing, that allowed people to not feel that they were either constantly under the microscope or in some way being judged. And that made them comfortable. It was later that I figured out that this was something that had great value. And when I was about 18, I figured that I was always interested in biology. I was interested in life, how life works. And I decided when I was about 16 or 17, I decided that I wanted to be a physician. And then once I decided that, I sort of felt that this gift I had, I was finding that people would open up. They would start talking about things that they did not normally talk about. Because with me, they would share. And there was a time in my life when I actually felt bothered by it because I wasn't ready to be the custodian of everybody's problems. I was not emotionally ready to handle everybody's problem, but they were coming and dumping all their problems to me at that time. and I would, but I was too polite to say anything about it. So here I was listening to everyone vent, and then I would go away and then in private feel all upset because they all vented to me. And I had still not figured out how to handle the problems of the world. But I was definitely beginning to realize that somehow the world had a need to come and share all its problems to me. But between the age of about 16 to around 19, I started realizing that really would like to get into being a physician, being a doctor. And I suddenly realized that this gift, I can't pinpoint exactly when, but somewhere around 19, I got the idea that this gift, if I could only allow myself to just listen without necessarily getting affected, if I could listen like the way it was a movie being played before me, and not make it personal, then I found that the person on the other end would actually go home with some value. And when the start of the conversation, I would never know what the value would be. All I had to be was the space where I could just sit and let the movie play out in the form of the story which the other person was saying. And I just had to wait. And then at the end of the movie, the other person would frequently come up and say, you know what, I think I know what to do. And I would have hardly said anything about it. And there was a phase in my late 19-year-old, 20-year-old self when I felt that it was almost like I was cheating the world, that I could take the benefit and the credit for solving people's problems without doing anything. And it was kind of funny at that time. Anyway, I got into medical school when I was 1978. I was 20 years old when I got into medical school. I remember very clearly the medical school that I actually joined had a lot of criminal gangs that were overrunning the dorm. And I remember that I came into the dorm on the first day after signing the papers and filling the fees at the registrar's office, and then I went to the dorm room that was assigned to me, and there was a knock on the door. And yeah, somebody said, once I discovered the gift, you have to embrace it. I didn't realize I was actually embracing it, but yeah, I didn't have any choice. It was there, and I couldn't walk away from what was part of me. The knock on the door came, and I opened the door, and there was this senior who a couple of years senior to me, with a shoebox in his hand. And he said, they used to call me Ayer, my last name. He said, Ayer, take this and put this under your bed. And I said, what's it, boss? And he said, my name is on the police roster, so my room can be raided at any time. These are country-made bombs, just put them under the bed. You don't argue with a guy with a shoebox of bombs. I was too shocked to even say anything. This was my first day in medical school. That's India. There are some parts of India that's pretty much like the Wild West. Most people don't know that. I put the box under my bed, and for about a year, I slept on that bed. I never swept that room. I never mopped the floor or put anything under the bed. Did not even shake the bed, which was asking quite a lot from a 20-year-old.
Yeah, no, it's gangs in the dorm rooms kind of different from most people's experiences. So
yeah.
So what happened next?
So the first year in med school went by, and then at the time of exam time, I became friends. I realized very early on in the dorm that for me to survive, I had better make some alliances. So I made friends with some of the criminal elements. My ability to be a space of listening, my ability to keep quiet and listen and not open my mouth and just let loose, rapidly gained the trust. And then these guys would come and vent about their problems to me. And I would get to hear some pretty crazy stories.
Okay.
And again, those experiences refined my ability to continue to listen to all of this without passing judgment, even though the stories that were happening on the other side were pretty awful stuff.
Okay.
And to actually listen to acts of criminality without passing judgment uh, revealed something new about myself as a human being. Uh, it was, at first, I didn't know how to handle it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where this part of my life was taking me. I obviously did not share it with my parents because I knew because I was really, really keen on becoming a doctor. So I did not want my parents to know that I was in such an environment. So I never shared it with them because they would take me out of school immediately.
Right.
So I knew that, so I never did anything. I just kept quiet and survived. But what happened was the one of the friends, the gang members that I'd made friends with, exam time was coming, and he obviously was petrified about the exam because he was not prepared. And I made an offer to him. I said that, would you listen to me if I taught you how to study? He said, yeah, help me study. Can you help me pass this exam? And then I said, yeah, I think I can, but you gotta listen to me. He says, what do you want me to do? I said, we got 90 days before the university exams comes by. For the next 90 days, I own you. Are you willing to be owned by me? No questions asked. If you ask a single question of any of my methods, you're going to leave. I'm going to leave, and you're going to face the exam on your own. Are you ready to do that? And he said, yeah, I'll do it. No questions. I said, okay. Then I started teaching him. Every day, I would run classes. In my room, I pulled a blackboard and I started teaching him. We would start at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and we would go non-stop for 9 solid hours till midnight. We'll have a break every 3 hours. We would have a break. So there were 3 sessions of 3 hours, and we'd break for 15 minutes. And then, I used to smoke at that time. So that was my one vice at that time. I had to have something to survive in that environment. So I used to smoke. So I would go for my 15-minute smoke break, and he would go and rest something, eat something, and then we come back. At midnight, he would go, and then I would continue to study till 3 a.m. Then at 3:30, I would go and sleep, and I would wake up at around noon or so. I never went for classes at that time, and I'll tell you a little bit about that a little later. And at noon, I would go and get ready and relax, and then at 3 p.m. again, the classes would start. This went on for 90 days. He passed the exam. So when that happened, this guy had been failing the annual university exams for 3 years in a row. And when he passed, it was like a big thing in the campus. Everyone got to talk about it, and this guy went and bragged that it was Ayer who taught me. He's amazing. This, that. So then, what the gang members, the hierarchy of the gang, decided that Ayer is too valuable an entity to be reserved for one person. So they assigned 2 scribes for me and 2 assistants, and the 3 of us had classes, and I began to teach all the members, the senior members. So I was in first year and second year, and I was teaching third and fourth year students. I would read their books and then I'd go. Now I have a photographic memory. So I would go to the library and I would read, and then I would come back. So I would never attend classes. I would actually I would stand outside the class and ask them, what did the professor teach? And he'll say, yeah, he taught this. Okay, I'll just go to the library, read it, and then go. And because of the gang mentality, I would tell one of the gang members to call out my name in attendance, and so my attendance would get marked, and I was like the holy grail on campus. Nobody can touch Ayer because Ayer is the passport to all these people becoming doctors.
Okay, so no, I mean that's amazing, and definitely, you know, you mentioned that you felt bad for getting benefits for doing your gift.
My grift, yes, it is. I was giving fair value. It was not true grift.
Right, but a lot of times, you know, if you're doing something you love, they say you never work a day in your life.
Oh yeah, I never worked a day. I never ever studied. I enjoyed just teaching.
Right. So
Yeah.
so if you find your gift, you know, I think that's a big piece of what finding your gift is all about. Or once you found it, is, you know, you found something you would love to do. I guess whether or not you're getting paid, even though you need to get paid and you deserve to get paid.
Oh, I got paid well.
Yeah.
I got paid in the years that followed. But what happened was when I actually went to the exam, I had already taken all these exams several times over by teaching.
Right.
Then one thing happened that was pivotal in this process. So my classroom became bigger. I got a bigger room, and then people would sit. There was no room for chairs. People would sit on the floors. It would spill out into the corridor, and there would be people listening and taking notes and so on and so forth. Then, and it was all, and because the dorm was overrun by gangs, there was one dorm that was ruled by one gang, another dorm that was ruled by another gang. So there was this gang segregation of the dorms, and people of this dorm would not go over to that dorm because it was dangerous to do that. And one day, two students from a rival dorm came to my class, and immediately uproar. There was fights, there was guns were pulled out, threats were made, and it got to a point where I finally just said, listen guys, if I cannot teach anyone, if I cannot teach everyone, then I can teach no one. I'm not going to teach. That's it. So then people say, no, you know, we'll blow you up. We'll do this. We'll do that. That's fine. Do whatever you want. I don't want to live like this. Either I teach everyone or I teach no one. That's it. So then finally there was a compromise. The compromise was, yes, you can teach everyone until 2 months before the exam. And from 2 months, the last 60 days, your services are reserved only for your dorm. I said, okay, that we can live with that. And in this manner, my classes became the one sanctuary, the one place in the college where guns were left at the door, where people of rival mentalities were sitting side by side, learning to go to a common goal that was something bigger than whatever they wanted to achieve right in the middle. It was unbelievable. And when I saw that, I suddenly realized one thing, that the only thing in the world that can overcome criminality, war, strife, all kinds of conflict, poverty of all kinds, is the ability to educate. Knowledge is the one thing that almost is like a purifying holy water. You can wherever you sprinkle that, you create sanctity. You don't need to preach. You don't need to subscribe to any particular religion.
Right.
You don't need to read the word of God from any book. It doesn't matter. All you have to do is excite and create the thirst for knowledge. And even if you arrive at that point through nefarious means, even if you arrive at that point through manipulation and strategy and scheming, the end result, because knowledge and the gift of knowledge is so purifying that it purifies even the means.
Okay. So excellent. So now let's make a little bit of a pivot. We've got some questions here in the chat, so I want to start to address those. And I think this is a good first one. What's the first step in discovering our gift?
A gift is a gift in the impact it has on other people, not what it does for you.
Okay.
So the definition of a gift resides in your recognition of what it opens up in the space of the life of other person. If the other person's life expands, it becomes bigger, more possibilities become available to that person, then whatever you did that allowed that to happen is a gift. You need to identify that, somehow package it into a behavior that you can reproduce, and integrate that into your being as something that you will offer to the world at all times.
Okay, so all right. So now, so it's really about the impact you have on others. And a lot of times others may see your gift before you do, I would think.
Yeah, because you may sometimes be blind to the impact you're having, but the other person can't ignore it because he's impacted.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now, how does passion, how does passion fit in with gifts and talents?
Passion is just raw desire. It cannot lead to success. Passion, it's like saying, can a can of gasoline get you from one place to another? No. A can of gasoline, when ignited, will only create an explosion. It is only when the content of that can is structured into an instrument, a complete mechanism that can make use of that explosive power in that gasoline, and that to channel that explosive power in a productive movement of parts that drives a wheel that then carries a carriage that is an automobile that takes you a distance, and that too the distance has to be traversed safely with a steering wheel and headlights and so on and so forth. So there's a whole apparatus that is required to convert passion into productive movement. So success is the whole apparatus, the outcome of that whole apparatus. So if you just had gasoline, all you're going to do is explode. You won't make any progress.
So it supports your success.
It is one ingredient,
but it doesn't.
It is only one ingredient.
Okay.
In fact, it is actually not the most important ingredient.
Okay.
The most important ingredient is the will to suffer failure.
Okay. So
if really, you have no ability to suffer pain, if you have no ability to go long periods without any results, any rewards, if you are so hungry to be fed that you cannot even bear to wait for the plate to be placed before you, you won't move anywhere.
Okay. So, I served in the Navy, and one of the big things in the military is discipline,
Yep.
and you know, and discipline entails some suffering, and that's probably why they do it.
Yeah,
What?
it involves denial. It
Mhm.
involves the willingness to suffer deprivation, privation, um, without the hope of reward. They don't even. It is not even like the sergeant is telling you, you know what, I got your, pass, your weekend pass in my hand. He does not even promise that. He said, you're going to do what I tell you to do, without any promise of any reward. You do it, and I don't even know if you live through it. We'll see. And maybe there'll be a reward. I don't know. I don't even know if there's going to be a reward. You just living through this is reward enough, should be enough for you.
Okay. And I've heard from others that generally people are most successful on their third business. So you got to suffer failure a couple of times, many times before you can have a successful business. Not sure your experience or your thoughts on that, but
Oh, actually, I would put it differently. The first part of learning business is to learn. The first lessons you learn are all the things that will go wrong.
mm-hmm.
So those constitute your failures of your first and second business. The first and second business is you learning how to not fuck up the third business. All right. So you learn all the things that you don't do, and you learn it in a painful way because the human brain is wired to remember pain far longer than pleasure, because pain has a survival value to you. And
Mm-hmm.
a creature that does not remember what hurt it is going to get killed soon. In the jungle, if you don't know which plant is poisonous, if you don't know which tree will hurt you with its thorns, if you don't know which river is dangerous to cross, you will not survive. Pain makes sure the memory of the injuries you suffered makes sure that you survive the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So pain is put in the planet, put into your experience for as a blessing to teach you to live, to make sure you live. When somebody nowadays say, oh, no, you can't punish somebody, you can't you gotta give a trophy to everyone who participated. That's bullshit. Life does not give trophies for participation. And you are not preparing those kids for life. I don't know what you're preparing them for. They gotta try. They gotta. Now you can the job of the teacher is to identify the one kid who does not stop crying and take that kid aside and soothe him a little bit and give him a little bit of lollipop and give and bring him up. But don't stop the kid from crying at all. The kid's got to cry.
Okay.
But your job as a teacher, as a leader, is to identify the pathological criers, the ones who get so crushed that they won't rise up on their own. So then those people you pick them up and you give them a lollipop. Don't go and hand out lollipops to everyone who participated.
Okay. So so now in your experience, you help people find their gifts. Do people tend to have one gift, or do a lot of people have multiple gifts?
I tend to believe that we only are given one gift each. We may sometimes confuse a variation of one gift as two gifts and three gifts, but I think the Lord, and I do believe in a Lord, and I don't mean that other people need to believe in it too, but I do believe that there is a higher power that hands out everyone a gift, and everyone is given a gift. And the business of life, I believe, is for us to find our gift, to identify the one way that we make the most lasting impact in the people who come into our lives. And that automatically becomes the gift. And then you'll build a life around manifesting that one gift in everything you do. And that, in essence, is what I believe that everyone has. Now, everyone is given many talents. I have many talents. I have skill in writing. I'm eloquent. I have a razor sharp mind. I have a photographic memory. It's not as sharp now. I'm 60. I'll be 67 in a couple of months. It's not as brilliantly sharp as it was when I was 27, but it's still quite photographic. And I can analyze things. I'm very creative. I invent. I've done a lot of those kind of things. But those are all my talents. And I use my talents to support and impact the transmission of my gift, and that is to empower people, to make them feel safe, to make them feel an expansion in the possibilities of their life. And I use my speech, my writing, my analysis, my gift as a physician, my ability to create medicines and help them biologically. So these are all the things that are talents that I give in the support of my gift. Now, whenever in my life I have used my talents in the service of my gift, I have always won in huge ways. Whenever I have mistaken one of my talents as my gift, I have always failed. And this is, I believe, the purpose of everyone, that they need to identify their gift, they need to identify their talents, they need to be able to put their talents in the service of the gift, and they need to be able to keep these two things separate, not mix it up or confuse the two.
Okay. So now, you're separating them. So now you talked about gifts and talents. How would you define them? Or if you were going to contrast them, what would you say?
I told you the gift is something that will impact the other person.
Right. Okay.
Talents are usually, almost always, they are instruments that you use to impact. For example, the ability to craft empowering stories. The stories you create are the tools you create to empower, but the stories themselves don't empower. It is the intention and the connection that you bring while you transmit the stories that empower. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
We human beings have amazing brains. And give me 1 second. I'm going to bring a little tool onto the screen. It's right here.
Okay, and actually, I'm going to take a commercial. Oh, okay. Actually, if you're ready. Okay.
Sorry. So I'm a doctor, and being a doctor, I have access to things like a model of a brain.
Okay.
All right. So this is it's made out of plastic, but it's a model of a brain, and this part of the brain that is all of this area. So this is the front, this is the back, and this whole top surface is called the neocortex. And there's a reason why it's called the neocortex. It's a neo is new, cortex is brain. So it's the new brain. It is from an evolutionary standpoint, this is the most recently developed part of the brain. If you go down in animals, this part of the brain is smaller and smaller as you go down the animal kingdom. Now, this model, you can separate it out. So you can separate it out like this into two halves, and you see the inside. Now, I'm going to show this part of this. So this neocortex is where our intellect and our reasoning powers are. We use the neocortex for all our reasoning, and we believe that our reasoning powers, that we are rational creatures and we make our decisions and choices of our life based on reason. Actually, it is not. It is based on a portion of the brain, and I've cut this part and removed it. And this part of the brain, this orange part, it says anxiety and fear. Can you see it? It says anxiety, fear.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So this part is called the amygdala. It's deep seated in the brain. Look how deep it is. It's right in the center. I have cut. All right. It's a primitive part of the brain, and this is where our emotions reside. I'll take the model away, and we can now talk. So the brain is all this neocortex, and right there in the center, inside this brain, is the central primitive part called the amygdala. The amygdala is where our emotions reside, and our memory is tightly connected to the amygdala. Our memory is not connected to our reasons. It is not connected to our intellect. It is connected to what we feel, what we experience. All right. That's why you say people will not remember what you did for them, but they will remember how you made them feel. This is what it means. The amygdala is what generates memories. And guess what it generates it with? The amygdala is where you feel fear, fury, lust, love, revulsion, repulsion, attraction, territoriality, procreative drives, sexual drives, the tribalism, us versus them, all these emotions that define the boundaries of our experience and existence is in the amygdala. And what we do is we make our choices based on our emotional gut experiences. And then we use the rationalization of the neocortex, this part, to justify the reasons why we make them, to provide reasons for why to make them. We've already decided what choice we're going to make, but we need to feel good about it. So we use this to justify, and we also use this to create strategies such that what we feel in our emotions, we manifest it as true. So otherwise it just becomes hallucination, right? If all you feel is emotion, but you don't know how to manifest it into reality, it is just no different than a delusion. But if you use your neocortex, your intellect, and your reason to actually manifest your emotions into reality, then that's how you live. Now, coming back to the whole thing about how we speak, our words are tools. Words are just words. They mean nothing until you can tap into the other person's amygdala. When I speak, I have to be a space of connection with you, Andrew, with the emotions that constitute you. I have to somehow figure out the key experiences in your life that will trigger key emotions. And I have to craft my words to tap into those emotions. Then, when I do that, what will happen is there will be a connection. And then in that connection, I have to use the rationalizations and the reasons and explanations and strategies that my brain can think of, my neocortex, and I have to weave that with threads. The fabric of connection between you and me, I have to stitch it with the threads of my reason. And when I do that, you and I experience communion. So out of connection, we generate communion. And when there is communion, there is communication. And when there is communication, a community is born. A community is not a bunch of bodies occupying the same space. A community is a bunch of hearts speaking the same speech. When Martin Luther King stands at the Lincoln Memorial and declares, "I have a dream," he connects to the amygdala of 200,000 listeners on the reflecting pool at the foot of Lincoln Memorial. And 200,000 hearts speak back the same speech, "I have a dream." That is communication. And it comes out of connection. And when you connect, the tools of your speech create impact. They transform the experience. And that is why you can have a politician go on stage and against another politician who is giving all the reasons why you need to do things. And this politician sits here and says, people are eating cats and dogs. And he wins and the other loses. This is what I mean. This is why it happens.
Okay. So it's really no, that was powerful. So given those, you're looking at I guess you work with people on sort of helping them find their gifts. What do you do with them? How does that process work?
So the gift is there in the person. So I need to help them find ability to create a space for their gift to show up. So everyone has two parts of their consciousness. You have a portion of your consciousness where you can passively observe what's happening without judgment. So you have right now when I'm speaking, you're not only listening to me, you're listening partly to me, and you're also listening partly to your voice tell you what I am telling you. So you're listening to you tell you about what you're hearing. So for me to make a difference in you, I have to penetrate you and take some amount of connection and control over that voice that is telling you what you're hearing. And to do that, you need to be able to show people how to separate their experience from the passive perception of experience and their mental meaning-making machine, that is the chatter, that is always giving them an interpretation, a meaning, a value statement, a judgment. This is good, bad, ugly. I like this. I don't like this. This, he is meaning this. That is why he is saying this, and so on and so forth. So this meaning-making machine that is going on is an automatic function of us, and its purpose is only one thing. It is to make sense of the experience of life in a way that promotes our survival, promotes our advantage. So we constantly are trying to figure out what life means for us. And this is happening at every level, every creature. The tiger that cannot figure out where the deer is going to appear is going to go hungry. The deer that cannot figure out where the tiger is going to appear is going to get eaten. So the need to make meaning out of the randomness and the unpredictability of life is a universal drive. It is a universal imperative. Now, the meaning-making machine rules the life of everyone, and it is the prison within which people live. But creative possibility needs to exist outside the meaning-making machine. Put it differently, the meaning-making machine is this little fellow sitting on your shoulder telling you what life is telling you. He is deciding what potential life has for you. If this meaning-making machine goes on based on past experiences that no longer are relevant to the future, and you are running a business based on that, you are not going to succeed. You're never going to see opportunity before the next person finds it. You're always going to be catching up because you're always going to be looking at somebody else's choices and say, oh, that was a smart choice. Let me go get on that bandwagon and chase that customer. You will never discover opportunity before the rest of the world because you are sitting with a meaning-making machine that is past-based, that is creating interpretations of life based on past experiences. To be able to see life as it appears new and fresh, with the possibility of new openings, you need to be able to shut the meaning-making machine off, or at least let it chatter on and you ignore it and develop your ability to observe without creating an interpretation. So when you ask me, how do I work with people? I work with people by teaching them how to develop this ability to passively observe without giving me meanings. When you do that, you suddenly realize that this meaning-making machine is like a hurricane of interpretations, meanings, swirling around you like a big storm. But at the eye of the storm, the central eye is pure awareness without any meaning. It is silent and peaceful, just like the eye of any other hurricane. The key is for you to be able to ground yourself in that eye and be unshakable in that eye. And when you can stand in that eye of your own awareness and watch life evolve in front of you, and you can see the meanings, you can see the narratives popping up, because the meaning-making machine, you can't shut it off. It goes on, it's a part of you. But it's there, but you gain enough control over your attention such that you decide where you're going to pay attention to. And you can see on the periphery of your attention this meaning-making machine popping up ideas meanings and interpretations. And then you can decide which one of those ideas you would like to actually give power to. And you can pick and choose which one of those ideas that pop up from the meaning-making machine you can make as the central goal of the next 24 hours or the next 24 minutes or the next 24 seconds of your life.
Okay.
That person who can do that has control, has power. Everybody else is swirling on the rim of the hurricane. They have no power.
Okay. Well, and okay. So no, this was powerful. Like I told you earlier, an hour goes really fast. So we're actually bumping up on the hour. But I think we covered a lot of great stuff. And definitely look forward to learning more. I guess you shared some books in the that I put in the chat.
Yeah.
So anyone who wants to learn a little bit more, there's opportunities to do that here as well. So definitely those are available to you in the chat wherever you're watching from. What else is going on? So before we close out,
I do this for all my guests of every podcast. Is I'll send it to you. You can post it up.
Okay.
The book Art of Viral Speaking.
Okay.
I will give you a signed digital version of it for you as a QR code. You can put it up.
Okay.
You can scan it and get it for free.
Excellent.
It actually documents my journey to the TED stage, how I actually moved there.
Okay. So excellent. So before we close out, let's take a minute. I always like to have guests share 3 key things that people should take away from the conversation. We covered a lot of stuff, but I want you to take a minute, think about 3 key things that people should take away that they could put to use in what they're doing, even starting tonight or tomorrow. So I'll play a quick video about my upcoming Power Breakfast event, and then we'll have you back to share those 3 things. All right.
When I tell you that you walk into this space and you know it's a different type of energy, are you going to be supercharged? Of course you are. I'm supercharged right now.
Power Breakfast is a great event. It certainly helped me in my business. I've met a lot of referral partners, a lot of clients.
Everyone has an opportunity to connect with small and medium-sized businesses all over New Jersey and really get the most and understand the resources that are out there and available to them.
Hi, I'm Andrew Frazier, masterpreneur and founder of Small Business Pro University. For more than 10 years, our Power Breakfast events have directly resulted in tens of millions of dollars in both revenue and financing for attendees. Join me at the Power Breakfast in the clubhouse at Galloping Hill Golf Course in Kenilworth, New Jersey on Friday, March 21st to learn best practices, enjoy great networking, and gain useful knowledge. We will supercharge your day.
Today's Power Breakfast was not only inspirational, but I walked away with some tangible skills and techniques that I can put into action in my business when I go home today.
This Power Breakfast theme is work on your business and scale. You don't want to miss our featured guest speaker, Wallace Santos, CEO of Main Gear.
I'm Wallace, CEO and founder for Main Gear Computers. We manufacture gaming PCs and we sell them online, so maingear.com. Today we're considered basically the Ferrari of gaming PCs. Think of really beautiful bespoke computers that are designed for performance and entertainment. That's what we do.
I look forward to seeing you at the Power Breakfast in the clubhouse at Galloping Hill Golf Course in Kenilworth, New Jersey on Friday, March 21st. To learn more and register, visit www.sbprou.com www.sbpro.com/power-breakfast. Take advantage of early bird pricing by registering today at www.sbpro.com/power-breakfast. Good evening. I'm back here hanging out with Dr. Iyer, talking small business. We talked about a lot of valuable topics, and about your gift, discovering your gift, and even a lot more. So what Dr. Iyer is going to do is really just give you 3 key things to take away from what we discussed this evening, so that you can focus on those. Definitely, Dr. Ayer, I'll let you take it away.
Your attention is the way you create your reality. What you pay attention to is what determines how you experience the world around you. It is your only true wealth. It is not if you're a business owner, small, medium, large, doesn't matter. It is what you pay attention to that really determines the outcome of your life. So if your attention is already hijacked by preconceived notions that are based on past experiences, then all that you will create with your attention is to recreate your past. You will not be able to create future. So the key to success, or the key to leading a very fulfilled and satisfied life, is first, gain power over your attention. Develop the ability to simply observe. You can put meaning on your observation later. The problem is, in our education system, we teach people to make meaning very soon, too soon. We don't allow people time to develop their ability to observe without ascribing a meaning. Everything has to be given a name and a form. The minute you show some kid a round apple, you have to tell it it's an apple. You don't want to let the kid come up with some outlandish meaning. So this need to predetermine the meanings of our life closes us to life. It closes our window of openness. So the first thing to do is, you can't go and tell people, be open, be open. It doesn't happen. You need to tell them to develop their ability to observe, and let them know that they can always go and make the same meanings that they had before, but just experiment. What if? That's the first thing. The minute you understand that you can separate observation from meaning, you are a little bit closer to developing true power over your life. Because meanings are the prison walls of our life, and they contain experience within the definitions of the meanings. But the life extends beyond the prison wall, and if you develop the ability to break a crack in that prison wall, then you can set a person free, because the freedom begins the minute the wall is cracked. It doesn't have to be big enough to walk through. If it just cracks, you have already freed the person. The only difference between a crack and something that you can walk through is the amount of space. That is all. There is no difference. So you have to teach people the ability to crack the wall of meanings. Then, once you have cracked it, open it into a space. Then, the third thing is, once you have created space, you are free to wander. You can walk out into the yonder, then come back into the safety of your meanings. You can come back into your own tribal meanings and say, hey, this is where I'm most comfortable. But every now and then I will go and visit Timbuktu. Those are the three things that I would like people to do. If you have that, you have everything in the world.
Okay. So number one is really being able to control your attention and observe. Is that
Number
correct?
2 is develop greater and greater skill in residing in observation. And number 3, develop skill in volitionally switching into attention versus meaning.
Okay.
At will.
Great. So now for the attention, is that something that meditation or yoga would fit into doing that?
There are many techniques of attention.
Okay.
Mindful awareness is a very fancy fad kind of thing that everyone is talking about. Going and sitting cross-legged and going, that's, you can do whatever. There are mathematicians who will go into observation with numbers. There are artists who will go into pure observation when they are splattering paint on a canvas. There are people who will go to a museum and stare at a painting for hours without moving and find meaning there, or find their ability to dissociate themselves away into observation. Observation, the whole world is there, and you can choose whichever way you want to interact with it. You can observe. The ability to observe is the ability to be aware of our 5 senses. Our environment impacts our senses. Molecules, photons strike our retina, giving us light and color. Molecules drift up my nose and give me the scent of a flower. Molecules fall on my tongue and give me the taste of an ice cream. Molecules of air strike my eardrum and give me music and sound. Molecules strike my skin and give me touch. Our experience is nothing more than the impact of molecules upon our sense organs. That's all it is. We then make meanings out of it.
Okay.
You can reside in just observation without making the meaning, and take some time to let the meanings evolve. You'll be surprised what will come up.
Okay. Excellent. Well, this has been great. Definitely appreciate you joining me tonight. And also being willing to share a copy of your book electronically. So I'll definitely share that as well with people. Let's continue the conversation at some other point. And I'll let you go for now. But let me close out the show. If you could hang out for a minute, that would be great. Okay, everybody, good evening. Thanks again for hanging out tonight, and always appreciate your comments, your questions, your feedback, and ideas on the show. So definitely that. I think, all of us got something out of tonight's show, and, I think this is one of the shows that I'm going to have to listen to again to really get everything, because there's so much packed into it. So you may need to do that as well. As you know, the recordings are available still up on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So you're welcome to do that. So before we close out, just want to give you an update on sort of what the next show is going to be about. So next week, we're going to be talking about selling more. The 5 keys to winning more business. As you know, sales and marketing is your most important job as a business owner. So selling more is important, and knowing how to do it. So we're going to be talking to Rick Denley about how to do that more effectively, and look forward to hanging out with you once again. So always remember, at the end of the day, that the more you know, the faster and more successfully your business will grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpru.com.